My beloved child, stop for a moment, because there is something about your money situation that your soulmate may have quietly wondered about for far longer than you realize. They asked someone for insight about you, expecting a simple answer, perhaps something comforting or ordinary. But what they heard was completely different. The question was not only, how much money will this person have? It was deeper. Why does their financial path feel so different from everyone else's? And the answer left them completely stunned. Stay with me for a moment, because the most surprising part is not what was said about your money. It is what your soulmate suddenly understood about you. They were told that your financial story may not follow the predictable pattern they once assumed. There could be a period where things seem delayed, confusing, or slower than expected, followed by a major shift in the way you handle opportunities, choices, and abundance. Your soulmate may have believed you were simply waiting for something to happen. But the message they received suggested something much bigger. You may be preparing for a chapter where one important opportunity changes the way you see your own value. And when they heard that, their emotions changed. Because suddenly, memories started connecting in their mind. Every time you stayed quiet. Every time you refused to settle. Every time you kept moving forward even when nobody noticed. They began wondering whether they had completely misunderstood your journey. But then came the part that made the conversation unforgettable. The psychic allegedly pointed toward something your soulmate had never considered. Your financial future may be connected to a decision you have not fully made yet. Not a random lottery-like miracle, not something you simply sit and wait for, but a choice involving your time, confidence, skills, priorities, or willingness to finally say yes to an opportunity that feels different from your usual path. As this unfolds, clarity will come. Your soulmate may have suddenly realized that the person they once thought was struggling to find direction could actually be standing at the beginning of a completely different chapter. And there was another detail that reportedly caught their attention. Your strongest financial progress may come after you stop trying to prove yourself to people who never understood your worth. Think about that for a moment. How many times have you delayed something because you were worried about what someone else would think? How many opportunities have you questioned because they arrived at an unexpected time? Your soulmate may now be looking at those moments differently. They may be thinking, what if I judged their silence incorrectly? What if they were building something privately? That thought can change everything. Something huge is waiting for you, but the revelation is not simply about money arriving. It is about your relationship with money, confidence, and possibility changing first. And once that internal shift happens, the external story can begin to look completely different. The most emotional moment came when the conversation turned from your finances to your heart. The psychic's message was not simply about gaining more. It was about learning not to measure your worth by what you currently have. Your soulmate may have heard that you have carried pressure quietly, perhaps pretending everything was fine while privately wondering when your breakthrough would finally come. That realization may have affected them more deeply than they expected. Because they may have remembered moments when they could have encouraged you but stayed silent, moments when they misunderstood your distance, or moments when they assumed you were simply being stubborn. Now they may be wondering whether you were actually protecting a dream that was still becoming real. This may resonate as we continue, because sometimes the most powerful financial transformation begins when a person stops chasing validation and starts building from conviction. The shocking part is that your soulmate may now see you differently because of this conversation. They may no longer see your present circumstances as the final chapter. They may see them as a temporary stage before something much more significant develops. And there is one final detail you need to hear. The message they received suggested that when your financial energy becomes stronger, your relationships may change too. Some people may suddenly respect you more. Some may suddenly become curious. And one person, in particular, may realize that they underestimated you. Your soulmate could be wondering whether they will still have the same place in your heart once you no longer need anyone's approval. So before you scroll away, remember this: the real revelation was never simply, your soulmate asked about your money. The real revelation was that the answer may have forced them to question everything they thought they knew about your future. They may have expected to hear that you needed someone to rescue you. Instead, they heard a message about independence, growth, timing, and a person who could eventually become far more secure than anyone expected. And that may be why they are suddenly thinking about you so intensely. They may be replaying your conversations, remembering your promises, and wondering whether they should approach you before your life enters its next chapter. But here is the part you should hold on to. Do not make financial decisions based on a prediction or someone else's reading. Let the message inspire reflection, not dependence. Your real power is in the choices you make, the skills you build, the opportunities you recognize, and the value you create. Your soulmate may have gone looking for an answer about your money, but what they discovered was something much more personal. You may be closer to becoming the version of yourself they never expected to meet. And if that realization has already reached them, then the next question is no longer whether your life can change. The question is what happens when they finally realize they were watching the beginning of your transformation all along. My beloved child, there is another layer to this story that your soulmate may not have been prepared to hear. After asking about your financial future, they reportedly asked a second question, one that revealed how deeply they have been thinking about you. They wanted to know whether your life would remain as it is now, or whether something significant was about to change. The answer made them pause. They were told that your biggest financial shift may come when you stop underestimating something you already possess. A skill, an idea, a connection, a talent, or even a decision you have been postponing could become much more important than you currently realize. Stay with me for a moment, because this is where the story becomes personal. Your soulmate may have suddenly understood that your future is not defined by what your bank balance looks like today. They may have heard that you are entering a period where your mindset around earning, saving, opportunity, and self-worth becomes completely different. And strangely enough, that realization may have made them emotional. Because if they have ever looked at you and thought you were behind, they may now be questioning that judgment. They may be wondering whether you were simply moving according to a timeline they could not see. The psychic's words may have caused them to remember moments when you talked about your dreams, your plans, or the life you wanted someday. Back then, perhaps they did not fully understand how serious you were. Now, they may be realizing that the future you described was never just a fantasy in your mind. It was something you were slowly preparing for. And then came a detail that reportedly surprised them even more. Your financial growth may create a change in your confidence that other people will notice before you do. You may become less interested in explaining yourself, less interested in proving your worth, less willing to chase people who only recognize you when you are useful to them. As this unfolds, clarity will come. Your soulmate may have been told that one reason your journey feels slow is because you are learning discernment. Learning which opportunities deserve your energy and which ones only distract you. That could explain why certain doors did not open when you wanted them to. It could explain why some plans took longer than expected. And it could explain why certain people gradually disappeared from your path. Your soulmate may now be looking back at those events and seeing a pattern they never noticed before. Perhaps what looked like rejection was actually redirection. Perhaps what looked like delay was preparation. Perhaps the chapter they thought was your weakest chapter was actually the chapter where you developed the strength needed for what comes next. Something huge is waiting for you, but do not misunderstand the message. It is not telling you to sit back and expect money to magically appear. It is telling you to pay attention. Watch for practical opportunities. Improve what you already know. Take your ideas seriously. Make wise decisions. And most importantly, stop allowing someone else's opinion to determine what you believe you are capable of becoming. Your soulmate may also have asked something they did not originally plan to ask. Will this person remember me when their life changes? That question says more than you might realize. Because beneath their curiosity about your money may be another emotion, fear of becoming irrelevant in your future. They may be wondering whether the version of you who once cared deeply about their presence will still feel the same after you become more independent and confident. This may resonate as we continue, because sometimes people recognize someone's value most clearly when they realize that person no longer needs external approval. Your soulmate may be sensing that shift already. They may remember how easily they once expected your attention, your patience, or your understanding. Now they may be wondering whether they took those things for granted. And the more they think about your financial future, the more they may realize that your true transformation has little to do with money itself. It is about becoming someone who knows what they deserve. Someone who can walk away from confusion. Someone who can say no without feeling guilty. Someone who can build quietly without announcing every step. That possibility may be what truly unsettled their expectations. They may have gone searching for information about your finances, but what they received was a reflection of your character. They were reminded that your future could become much larger than the version of you they currently understand. Before you move on, hear this final part carefully. If your soulmate really did seek answers about your money, the most important thing is not whether every prediction comes true. The powerful message is that someone who knows you may be beginning to recognize potential in you that they previously overlooked. And that realization can change the way they approach you. They may become more curious, more respectful, more careful with their words. They may even begin thinking about what they need to change within themselves before they can stand beside you again. But your journey cannot depend on whether they return, apologize, or finally understand. Your financial future belongs to the choices you make. So if this message resonates, take it as a reminder to protect your focus and take your goals seriously. And if you want more messages like this, share this video with someone who needs encouragement, leave a comment about the part that connected with you, and subscribe so you do not miss what comes next. Because the conversation your soulmate started about your money may have opened a much bigger question: what happens when the person they once underestimated becomes the person they can no longer ignore? And that is where the next chapter truly begins. My beloved child, what your soulmate discovered next may be the one detail they never expected to hear. They had already asked about your financial future, but something about the answer stayed in their mind. They could not simply walk away from it. So they asked one final question: what is the one thing this person needs to understand right now? The answer was not about a specific amount of money, a magical shortcut, or an instant reward. It was about timing. They were told that your progress may look invisible before it becomes undeniable. That sentence may have hit your soulmate harder than anything else. Because perhaps they have been watching you from a distance and assuming that nothing much was changing. Maybe they saw silence and thought you were stuck. Maybe they saw you becoming more private and thought you were pulling away. Maybe they saw you focusing on yourself and thought you had simply stopped caring. But the message suggested something completely different. You may have been quietly rebuilding your confidence. Stay with me for a moment, because this is where the emotional part begins. Your soulmate may have realized that while they were focused on what you had or did not have, you were becoming someone who could create a completely different future. They may have remembered the times you talked about wanting more from life, and suddenly those old conversations sounded different. They may have realized that your ambition was never about impressing anyone. It was about creating freedom, stability, and a life that actually felt like yours. And that realization may have made them question whether they had understood you at all. Then came the revelation that may have changed the entire conversation. The psychic allegedly suggested that your next financial chapter could be connected to something you have already started, something you once considered too small, or something you nearly gave up on because it was not producing immediate results. Think about that. What if the opportunity you are waiting for does not arrive looking like an opportunity? What if it appears as an ordinary conversation, a new idea, a skill you decide to improve, a project you finally take seriously, or a door that opens after you have almost stopped looking for it? As this unfolds, clarity will come. Your soulmate may have been told that your progress could accelerate when you stop comparing your timeline to other people's timelines. That may be exactly what they needed to hear, because they may have been comparing you too. They may have looked at other people and assumed you were falling behind. Now they may be realizing that comparison can hide an entirely different truth. Some people rise quickly and disappear just as quickly. Others build slowly, learn deeply, and create something that lasts. Your soulmate may have suddenly wondered which kind of person you are becoming. And that question may have created a strange mixture of admiration and regret. Admiration because they can sense your potential. Regret because they may remember moments when they failed to recognize it. This is why the financial message may have affected them emotionally. It was never really about money. It was about realizing that your future could become far greater than the version of you they once judged. There is another reason this conversation may have stayed with them. They may have heard that your relationship with money could become healthier when you stop attaching your self-worth to temporary circumstances. This may resonate as we continue, because a person can have very little today and still possess tremendous potential for tomorrow. Your soulmate may have been reminded that you are not your current circumstances. You are not the amount sitting in an account. You are not the opportunities you missed. You are not the setbacks that made you question yourself. And once they understood that, their question may have changed from, will this person become financially successful, to, will I still matter when they become more confident? That is a completely different question. It reveals emotion. It reveals uncertainty. And perhaps it reveals something your soulmate has not admitted to themselves. They may be afraid that your growth will change the balance between you. They may worry that one day you will look back and realize you deserved someone who believed in you from the beginning. They may be thinking about whether they waited too long, whether they said too little, or whether they underestimated the person standing in front of them. But here is the part you need to remember: you do not have to slow down your growth to make another person comfortable. You do not have to hide your ambition so someone else feels secure. And you certainly do not have to prove your future to anyone. Let your actions speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your progress speak. And now we reach the part that could completely change the way you see this entire message. Your soulmate may have gone looking for an answer about your money, but the answer may have revealed a lesson about your value. They may have expected to hear that you were waiting for something external to save you. Instead, they heard that your greatest advantage may already be within you, your ability to learn, adapt, rebuild, and keep moving when nobody is applauding. Something huge is waiting for you, but it may begin with a decision so simple that you almost overlook it. Take yourself seriously. Take your goals seriously. Stop announcing every plan to people who only criticize it. Stop allowing temporary circumstances to convince you that your future is permanent. And when an opportunity appears, examine it wisely instead of automatically rejecting it because it looks unfamiliar. Your soulmate may now be watching your journey differently, wondering when the change will become visible. But whether they watch or not, your responsibility remains the same: build a future you can respect. Because one day, the same person who once wondered about your financial potential may look at your life and realize something shocking: not that you suddenly became valuable, but that you were valuable all along, and they simply did not recognize it soon enough. The question now is not whether your soulmate will eventually understand your journey. The question is whether you will recognize your own potential before they do.